us at the moment.
We should be hitting answer, so but they're doing it themselves. So I would personally stay away from it now, just to not disrupt the show. And we'll note it to do a briefing with Liberty and Bill again to make sure that they're aware that that's a traffic manager role.
Copy that. I have a question about the first answer when we have a second.
Copy that.
Currently, the default behavior is not to sort by popular.
It's not, no. You have to select that in the Mechana to give you that view. So using popular is definitely the best way to go for those people who are listening in. The only problem is it doesn't sort out the planning questions versus the first hour questions. So you just have to pay attention to that.
Copy that. Would it be possible to get a different color scheme for first hour question?
Yeah, that's a nice suggestion. Pop that into Mechana at Mechana feedback and see what Chris says.
That's SPX question.
I think you were referring to Mechana, Josh, but maybe that was my mistake.
Correct. Yes, Mechana.
Yeah, it's just so that Jonas, we can tell the difference in the queue versus a first hour question.
I thought you mean the question on screen, which is also a good idea to have different layouts.
I was thinking as well when you said it. Yeah, that is a good idea.
I concur.
Great idea that you didn't have, Josh.
No, I've decided that I've taken credit for that as well.
Copy that. Credit given.
I need to build up my store whenever I start counseling our bosses about their behavior. Okay, so I missed the answer button on that last one. Did one of you guys grab it, or did the host?
I think the host is doing it. So I think either Bill or Liberty is doing that.
This seems like a sticky wicket.
It does. I mean, it'll just take a bit of briefing. This is a new role. I'm still slightly dubious about the role, only because I'm worried about adding a lot of team members onto the system. Whenever this is a whole voluntary thing and a daily project, I'm worried about adding more and more people to it to keep it stable, versus trying to pare down the number of people. But it's certainly a helpful role, it seems, for Alex. But Liberty and Bill seem to also be able to handle it themselves. So there's certainly a question mark over what will work. So we'll keep on trying it and then see what works.
Copy that. Yeah, Dennis seemed really appreciative to have me helping him out when I took over that task.
It does help the host and reader concentrate, which is the name of the game, isn't it, to make sure that they can do a better show. But at the same time, it adds an extra person back end that so that's why I'm kind of torn personally. But Juan, yes, we'll try and look out for that. So Josh, Juan is asking, is it possible to call when there is a question with more than 4 speakers? So we can give him a heads up that might be coming up if you see it.
Copy that one, and I've just moved over 2 questions. Should that be a role going forward to announce that to the team?
And Dennis is certainly doing that as part of the debugging, to kind of call out what's happening so that we can check that the behavior that we're seeing is the behavior to be expected. Technically, when things are more stable, we should be trusting what we're seeing in the super source. But at this stage, it is helpful to every so often know what's coming up. And Laura has noted that it's helpful for her if the traffic manager is calling out who's speaking and where they are in the super source and so forth, or where they are in the smart gallery.
That may get to be a little bit much today with the debugging going on, so I'm just kind of winging it.
Copy
Just
that.
kinda keeping it rolling.
I mean, I can see a version in the future where the traffic manager is actually the show caller, and then the person switching isn't the TD as much as they're just a person switching, so that the traffic manager is able to keep an overview of what's coming up and then calling the show based upon what they're seeing in Mukana.
Quick question: do we want to know on the interfaces? Should we have tallies on there so we know what is active right now on the buttons?
It would be helpful.
I'll look into that.
Tallies on what exactly, Jonas?
The
buttons.
universe interface.
Oh yeah. I think that had come up before. As per your idea, Richard, I kind of had a similar idea. For example, after we feel like we're sort of done with the super source, we've gone to the super source, we've shown the unique commenter, and we're finished with it, you could advance it, and that way push the super source to update, and then you're ready to jump to it without having any delay and for the next commenter in the queue. We now have over 4 in the queue.
So Juan, would you like us to, what I can do is I can take Mitchell off highlight, which then moves it over to a 4 box if you want to see that behavior. So we've got 5 people in there at the moment, and the super source has moved over to the 4. Is that the behavior you're looking to try and see if it's routing properly? And David's been clicked again, which will go down to 2. So and then we've got 3 there now. We've got 4 again. So there you go. Popular question. So again, I can unclick Guy. So that goes back to the 4 box. The order Rupert, Alex, Mitchell, and David seems to be correct. We've got Rupert reading from top left to, so we've got them in correct order. So top left, Rupert is in number 1 position, Alex is in number 2 position, Mitchell is in number 3, and David is in number 4. And that's been clicked again. That go back to Guy again. Just unclick that to go back. So let us know, Juan, if that's what you were hoping for. Thanks for calling that out, Josh, as well.
But now also was a great demonstration of why we want to cut as fast as possible to the questioner, because a lot of people are not conscious that they are not getting ready.
Copy that. I was trying to give the views so we could debug.
Totally, Laura. It was not about today, just because it was the perfect example where Alex was like fixing his nose. So
Copy that.
Just head up, Josh. You're down to 4 questions in the queue.
Thank you.
I need to jump into my next meeting. See you all in a bit.
Thanks, Jonas. Have a good meeting. Thanks, Juan. We'll look out for that. So when we have more than 4 speakers, whenever that changes, we should see the same 4 boxes with updated speakers. So that's what we're looking out for as a behavior, Josh and Laura. So when we've got 5 people, the first 4 will be in the super source. And then when it goes to the next person, the second person in the super source should change to the next 4 in the line. That's what Juan says, the behavior we should be seeing.
Got you. So is that applicable for a current question that accumulates over 5, or is that just for one in queue that's signed up for 5 prior to us taking on the question?
Technically should be both, depending upon when people raise their hands.
Copy.
Back from my Zoom challenges. Sorry.
Tallok down. Tallok is down.
Leave myself unmuted and do a hardware mute.
So, Richard, should I put the color idea for the second hour in both the Mukana and the 2.0?
Just Mukana. George will note it on our RFI today. As he's given me a thumbs up, he has done it already. So yeah, I would send that just directly to Chris via the Mukana request.
Thank you. And we've reached 5 participants.
So what we're looking for there is to see if anyone else raises their hand. So we would need 2 more people to raise their hand for us to test Juan's system.
Got you. So
it's
so
4
that's not
people
relevant. Okay.
Well, it's 4 people coming up is essentially what we're looking at. So 5 people ahead of the question, if you know what I mean. So we've got 5 people who have raised their hands on this question, but 2 of which have already been dealt with. So we would need another 5 after that to see if that behavior happens.
Copy that. You're looking for a super source overflow.
Yes, to see what happens once we trigger. At the moment, Juan, we have no questions with that many hands raised ahead of time. Just yet. We can simulate it to a certain extent by just turning off who's been highlighted and then highlighting them, but so technically if I unhighlight everyone, we've gone to the 5, there's 1 missing box. Then if I go to 2 as the highlight, then that did change 1. So that was me simulating it, and then that did work 1, I think. Unfortunately, Ari isn't in the 16 at the moment, so we had a black box within that. The next question has 3 hands raised, so the question after this. So that might give us, if more people raise their hand, that might give us a chance to see it as well.
Keep an eye on that. So this question, there's only 1 answer. What happens if you were to type in Alex as the answer early?
What do you mean by type it in? Sorry.
If you highlighted Alex previous to him being called on,
it doesn't do anything if the person is in the first queue, but if the person was if you highlighted the second person in the queue beforehand, it would change the super source. So I'm trying to think of the easiest way to explain something that's very visual in my head. By the way, you've got four on deck, Josh. And I'll try and think of how to visually explain this in my head. So on the next question, you have 3 hands raised. So if you were to highlight, and you'll see in the super source when that comes up, you'll see all 3 people on the super source. If you highlighted Courtney instead of Rupert, you would see the super source change. If you highlight Rupert, the super source won't change because they're the first person answering. So essentially the highlighting only affects things from the second person onwards. So we'll see there the super source has changed to 3 people. But if you highlight Courtney now, that will change the super source. If you highlight Rupert, it doesn't change the super source. So if you highlight Rupert now, it doesn't change the super source. The only thing that changes the super source, if it's the first person answering, nothing happens because we want to see all 3 people. But if you highlight Courtney now, you can do if you want, Josh. You'll see it will change the super source. So you see the changes, the highlighting only changes the super source from the second person onwards.
Okay, copy that. So is it accurate to say that tapping the first person or tapping a person when there's only 1 answer is sort of muscle memory for us?
Yes, I would say so. It will probably do other things in the future, so we'll keep on doing it.
Also,
But
Josh,
I think
there's more that the hands do in panel view. It also talks to the panelists. It shows who's answering and shows, so that's important as well. You shouldn't
yes, that's a
remove
very
that.
good point. Oh no, we're not going to remove it. But Yeah, that's a very good point. Juan, the next question up from Rupert McRae has 4 hands raised coming up. But yeah, I completely forgot that. Thanks to Locke, that's a very good point. It changes the panel view, so maybe I'll stop willy-nilly messing things around in the back end. just for our testing. I'll stop asking Josh to highlight things randomly.
And the thing about that is that it's a hard job to be host, and so if things are moving around a lot, it really can throw people.
Yeah, but Richard told me to do it.
Yeah, that's true. We've been trying not to do too much, but we're also testing things at the same time, so we have to do something.
For sure.
Some things.
I'm just adding to the info.
Liberty's a pro.
I'm also feeding cows, but multitasking.
Feeding cows?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He's just adding to the info. Tlaloc is adding to the info. Let us know if you have any room for improvement, Tlaloc. So I guess the interaction with the panelists, we're saying that probably they're looking for their hand to be highlighted and not just the audio cue from the host.
There's a chance, but more importantly, the host has to sort of follow that as well.
Yeah, the host has to follow it. I mean, generally, as a panelist, I look at the order. I don't look at who's highlighted because I can hear who's talking. But it is a good behavior to follow along with.
Say on Saturdays during the education hour, sometimes you've got to follow that highlight because Alex starts to vamp in the middle and you get lost.
Very good point. Yeah. Again, Alex is the testing wizard.
Sorry, I will be quiet. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Juan, the next question only has 3 hands on it now, so someone has dropped their hand, I'm afraid.
And you're saying that there's 4 up? I can't see it.
And Richard,
on this question, we've only got 2 left. Sorry, Josh.
No worries. So just saying, if for testing purposes and to not mess with people, we perfectly have the capability to simulate on every question the condition that you're looking to see. Simply by adding my hand into the queue, I can simulate that and I can remove it just as long as I don't get locked in.
I would probably do that less than what we've been doing so far, only because I would. Are you in the meeting still with your video on?
I am. I do not have my video on.
It's just in case you accidentally we get caught in that, and then you have to be in there answering that question, or they call on someone who's not in the meeting.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll read the question and be prepared to answer if I get caught.
Well, do you want to raise your hand on the next question?
Let me check and see whether I want to raise my hand.
Yeah.
Richard?
Copy that. Yes, Tlaloc.
Could you give me a 1 sentence update of what you're trying to do there and what you're testing?
We're trying to give Juan his 4 to 5 person queue just to see whether the super source is updating in the way that he's expecting it to.
Okay.
At the moment, it triggers once there are 5 people in the queue. So not 5 people who have raised their hands, but 5 people who are still to answer. So there's only at the moment 3 people on this question. Josh, there's no need to raise your hand on it because actually, if you do, Courtney's in here. So if he's accepted quickly enough, then we might see the 5 person if you raise your hand.
Courtney's been accepted.
Okay, you want me to raise my hand now?
Go for it. Quick. And have you got your camera on?
Sorry. I should have looked at this ahead of time. I'm not gonna go this time, but
No problem.
the different view has me. Okay, the hand button's still in the same place. All right. Sorry, it just disappeared on me when looking at the new interface.
Yeah, that I was confused because there's another little hand there. Like it makes me go. It makes me confused as how I could raise my hand on that.
In the meantime, I'm gonna prepare myself to get accepted, and I will be accepting any improvisation catchphrases that you would like me to mention in my question in the event that I do get called on.
Questions only.
Acknowledged.
But just to say one, I think we have seen that behavior working as we expected earlier on. But we'll try and get you a testing to demonstrate it.
Copy that. I'm going to look ahead.
Too much background noise right now, guys. For me.
No, I'm not hearing anything.
I'm hearing an open mic.
Copy that.
That view is pretty serene, Thalok.
Can you see the cows?
I can. Another suggestion I had, I don't know if it got taken down, but I had mentioned it to Dennis, is that since our target of updating our queue between 5 and 7 questions, could we maybe have a colorization to that when those targets are reached?
Interesting. Certainly put it to Chris and see what you think. If you think it'd be helpful, there's no reason not to. But at the same time, just being aware that he can only do so many things. So I would prioritize the urgent things that you think are most important versus stuff that would just be incidentally helpful.
Copy that.
To me, the number is enough. And at the same time, we have to remember that this host view isn't only used for this purpose. So I think the coloring of the second hour versus first hour is really helpful, but I'm not too sure if what you mentioned would be as helpful.
Copy that. One thing I would say is that in the event that you don't have a traffic person and we have a bare bones crew, I think as a host or a reader, that would be helpful to me to see, to try and keep me on track as well.
Awesome. Oh, and then I say go for it. I mean, again, whatever you think is most helpful to you, I think is a really good thing to feed through to Chris, because we're all so different in different ways, and we look at things so different. And I think it's an important thing to put through those different views to Chris to make it better.
Yeah, I still tend on prioritizing the colored questions because that's been a long time coming. I mean, actually, there should be a hard border that you could make that would auto separate. So if you had the second hour questions automatically put ordered below a imaginary line where only that line and above would only be first hour questions, seems doable since we're not able to sort. I could imagine a time in future Mukana where our second hour questions have their own icon.
I mean, that would be awesome. Visual tags rather than just written tags.
Oh, absolutely. The next version of my attribution charts are going to have icons.
I switched on a tablet that had not tiny icons, but good size that gave the video feed of all the cameras live. It was awesome.
Plotlook, you're going to have to improve your VC, your vascular cardiac.
I'm muted. How do you know?
Just had a hunch.
Nah, I'm doing okay. I don't remember where that is. Switch.
I've had a request to show the Mukana view for our panelists.
In order for that to be possible, you need a PHP script that Dennis has. So we can't really do that right now.
I believe the request was to show the interface that I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
You can't do that until you have something to strip out other things.
Yeah, that's what Tulok is referencing. Dennis has a PHP script to help hide some things that the Mechana team would prefer not to be, visually available.
If I were to cover up all but the center column, would that work or no?
You can do. I think. I mean, I'm not too sure what is the elements that they want hidden. So I would say let's leave it for now, and then we'll double check with Dennis and the Mechana team.
Copy that.
In Mechana, it seemed as though 2 questions were flagged as now answering at the same time just now, that Lois's question was skipped.
Thanks for that. It might be a double click situation. That's how we keep an eye on it.
Or maybe someone clicked. Oh, double click. So you're referring to double click in the sense that once someone hits the answer, the space is immediately filled makes it susceptible for another click on the next answer?
Yeah, I mean, are you clicking it or as well?
I'm not.
Yeah, it might be just that possibly it was a double click on their end, or as in they clicked it twice and clicked, as we've seen sometimes has happened. If you listen, obviously Bill sometimes goes, "Oh, we've lost that," or it's moved, or something like that. Usually it's a double click, I think. I'm not too sure if it would be something else. But if you're not clicking it, then it's likely a double click between the host and the reader, or just a double click on the reader's perspective.
Question about behavior. If you were to bypass a question that has not yet been answered, then it'll remain in the queue above the question that's currently highlighted, correct?
It should do, yeah.
Okay, so that would explain the look that we're seeing right now with the question didn't get eclipsed because it was never answered.
And that you're seeing that in the main Mechana.
Yeah, we jumped over Lois, answered, was it Douglas? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. It might have been we went to Douglas, but then Lois has remained above because it had not yet been answered.
Oh, actually, Liberty is saying in the panelist chat to say, did we miss Lois's previous question about the app? And double clicked question mark. And then she said she pulled it back and Chad said nice. So it looks like they readapted to it.
Copy that. And just acknowledge the only way to change the order in Mechana is to select them, pushing them into the chat, on deck. There's no other way.
You mean change the order that they're displayed in the on deck section?
Correct.
I don't think we have the ability to do that. You mean to take them out or to put one prioritized?
Sorry, stand by. I ran out of questions.
We might be putting some of these first stars back unless the reader does it themselves.
Okay, I've gone ahead and load.
there is a behavior that I've seen with Liberty that she likes to go over a little bit to try to get some of the first hours in.
Yeah, she's currently requesting to Alex what she should do. So she might just decide that herself.
There is one additional question in the queue.
One of the behaviors that we've talked about before, or Alex has talked about as well, is that if it has one vote, it can usually go back. If it's got 2 or up, then it can usually stay. That's if he decides not to move in, not to finish off all the questions. So, but
That's
we'll let
good.
Liberty make that decision herself.
That's good to know. I guess at some point there's going to be some documentation that shares that stipulation.
I would say with our group, it's more likely to be a convention before it'll become a documented stating. We'll find out.
And then
how things
before it
evolve.
becomes a documented stating it is changed. So that's just how that works.
Yeah. It evolves naturally in an organic way.
All right, we're running out of opportunities for me to raise my hand. I'm going to prepare to jump in.
Has there been any unexpected behavior from the supersource brain that anybody has seen?
No, I would say not. Juan, as he is aptly describing, it feels weird not having so many issues with the supersource.
Is there, have you been noticing it clearing out with no hands?
As in being empty with no hands?
Empty with one host and one reader, or one host?
No, I haven't noticed that, but to be honest, I wasn't looking for that behavior, and I think we haven't had a. There is a no hands question coming up. If Liberty goes to it, the last one of the day, possibly. Not the next one, but the one after that has no hands raised. So let's have a wee watch of that.
Thanks, sir.
Next question's a NASA one. I'll jump in on that one if need be.
Copy that. JJ, if you have the bandwidth, could you make sure that Josh, if he has his camera on, is in node 5.3 possibly?
Copy that.
And you'd like me to start my camera now, currently, correct?
Yeah, if you could pop it on just so that because if you raise your hand and you don't have your camera on and you're not in the multi-view, then you won't go in to the super source, or at least a black box will go in instead. So it won't give us a proper test if we decide to pop you in.
Josh, can you give me your name as it's listed?
It's Josh Kaufman, Pipe 1070. I do not have my city listed though, because I hadn't intended to be on the panel.
Could you just pop your numbers in though?
The numbers have been in.
Excellent. That's what we need, I think.
Okay, I'm ready. Hopefully it works. I'm going to aim for... Oh, they're both empty. 19.
19, yeah. Thank you very much.
There you are.
Until I lock, the next question has no hands. The next two questions have no hands.
Okay, I'm switching over to look. We're coming over to look.
I need to get a screen share.
So that black box is Josh Kaufman, or
No, it was Sam.
No, that was Sam.
oh, and we don't have
We're still
him
on the same
routed.
question at the moment.
We don't have him routed, so it's black probably.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Josh is in 5-3.
No hands raised in this question. SuperSource is holding on previous state. It is now gone
Is it-
over to a blank state with a blank question.
Right. Jason Bates just
And-
asked, but
Yeah.
that probably won't change until there's until the question is accepted.
No problem. This one has Alex in it. It hasn't updated just yet. It has not changed, and it still hasn't changed. So something now has changed. So just a heads up, Alex had raised his hands for that. He had been accepted. It didn't go through, I think, until it was highlighted. It felt.
Another note: when trying to put Sam Greenwood into location 20, that is to say 5.4, I instead got Josh. Not really sure why that's happening.
I'm in both 5-3 and 5-4.
Yeah.
Also, a heads up, one hand raised on this question, John Prado, and it has not updated the super source.
I'm prepared to add my hand to this question if need be.
No, stay off on this. Sky has that raised his hand. That's been accepted. Super source is now updated, but we have Sky instead. We have Josh instead of Sky in it. But I think it's because we don't have Sky in the super source in the smart gallery.
Copy that, waiting for the sky to clear.
So to lock, I think what we're seeing there is when there's no hand, when there's only one hand raised, the super source isn't updating, potentially. We will keep tracking during the second hour to see if the same behavior is happening.
I love Sky's thing mantra.
The thing is, enter keyword here.
I'm going to drop my video. Unless you'd like me to keep it in for troubleshooting.
No, you can drop it out.
Thing, keyword, 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 thing, keyword.
Keyword a thing. Does anyone ever use the direct host comms in Mukana?
Sorry, Josh, say that again.
Pushing
Yeah,
a
the
thing through
direct-
host.
Sorry?
You mean pushing a thing directly to host?
Yeah, direct from host, respond. I've never seen that used. Well, I wouldn't have, I guess, without this view.
Yeah, I've sent things to host a couple times, but only a very few times. Use it sparingly. Although host, I've seen, does push data in there pretty frequently to various people, and one can see all comments to anyone from host. So there's no such thing as a DM in that interface. It's just like guilt and shame, guilt and shame.
Oh, so that's what it was devised. Is 150 attendees on a Monday an uptick from what we've seen in the past?
I think so.
Yeah, by about 30.
I've noticed that ever since our Wednesday show. We've been up in our numbers. Question. So if I were to change my name without doing anything with the number, would that affect anything in Mukana?
No.
So if I was locked on a source and changed something in my renaming, and as long as I didn't affect the number, it would be just fine?
Where are you rechanging your name? In Makana or in Zoom?
In Zoom.
No, it shouldn't. I mean, it also activates something in Zoom OSC, but I don't think that's been implemented into the logic. So right now it would still just be looking for the numbers.
Josh, do you want to bring in second R's to the list, to the on deck?
Copy that.
Were you sending those through from recent or from popular?
From popular, I believe.
Because by on my end, it looks like the most popular one has 15 votes, but that didn't go through. Whereas the Joe Snyder's one had 3 votes. Was that what you were saying, or is my view not updated?
No, that is correct. It's possible that I may have had it scrolled down.
No problem.
Thanks for pointing that out. I suppose we could remove some and fit it in. Is it worth doing that? Maybe the last 2, at least to get it at the top of the hour.
Sorry,
I'm actually going to do that because
Super source?
Rupert's question and the other ones have 0 votes, so I'm going to push those back and then put the 15 in.
Yeah, copy that.
Okay, sorry about that. We're back on track. It might have been right as I was starting to push them over. I think I got some help. It might have been Bill since he didn't have a question to read.
You think Stars 2.0 should be required reading for question askers?
Oh wow, I just lost smart speaker.
You're okay. It's Sky isn't in. When you see that happen, if you have a look at the smart gallery, you can see that Sky actually isn't in the smart gallery. So that's why it happens.
Yeah, that was just a comment for me to remember to switch to screen.
It shouldn't be a behavior that you see very often in the future, but today, because we're not filling holes and gaps in the smart speaker, it might happen.
It's good practice, actually.
Yeah, exactly that. You'll generally know when smart speaker or active speaker is down simply because the automatic lower third won't be working.
It's good practice for the whack-a-mole game that is our life.
You.
Shall I push a reset? A data sync and reset?
Yeah, is it going to be
How's it
useful maybe at the top of the second hour or a couple minutes into the second hour to do a reset?
I vote yes.
Well, yeah, I think so. It'd be nice if it were graceful. That's one of the things we've talked about. It doesn't seem to ever really be. If it were a diff and add rather than a delete of the data that's there.
Could you phrase that? Could you phrase that as an RFI for George to note?
Yeah, so a diff comparison upon sync to fill in, reorder vacated spaces.
I think what we're after is a secondary sync function that only looks for needed changes, rather than doing what we do in the beginning of the show, which is to sync the entire panel. Or is that incorrect, JJ?
Well, I want to think about both cases: people who've left and also people who've come in, because we'll have, like you just mentioned, he mentioned right now, Thursday will be about having artists back on Thursdays. So those will usually be people who are not on during first hour.
JJ, is that update happening at the moment?
I'm about to. I was just letting you know.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I was asking if it was going to be useful. And then
it's definitely useful. No, the reason I'm asking is just that Chris Fenwick has his hand raised on this, but we're seeing Ari. But yes, it would be helpful for a resync.
That's the last time Chris ever was.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Sky's question is that threshold?
Copy that. So yeah, JJ, a refresh is definitely going to be helpful.
And just so we understand, me adding my question now before it's in queue, it doesn't really help us to see any super source changes, correct?
Correct.
Now, no. Oh, that's because we're in
I can't figure out if that's footsteps or crunches.
Crunches, sorry.
Okay, well, you could step at the same time as you crunch, and then it would be camouflaged.
Okay, Smart 16 or Smart Gallery set.
Copy that.
Setting host and reader.
SuperSource has not updated. SuperSource has updated. At the moment, it really feels like we're only seeing a SuperSource update whenever we highlight the first person speaking. Sky's question next has 4 people hands raised, so we'll have a look and see what happens there.
Highlight so even though some are accepted.
Yeah. So what we just saw was that all 3 people that we're seeing at the moment were accepted, but it didn't change until Leo was highlighted. Now, that might just be coincidental in terms of timing. And now we've got all 4. So that has updated. It updated live when Alex was accepted. So let's have a look and see what happens at the next question. Juan, next question has 5 hands raised. So this should be what you were talking about, hopefully seeing. We'll see the 4 up, and then we'll see when the second person starts talking if the SuperSource automatically changes.
Question.
Go ahead, Laura.
Since we're looking at the SuperSource, would it be helpful to leave the SuperSource in program while you're going through this next question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Because we're not streaming it to YouTube today, so some of these glitches with people not paying attention aren't as critical.
Sky got his thing in.
And SuperSource still, there you go. So it's around about 1 to 2 seconds sometimes till the SuperSource updates.
I'll be interested with the question in, because I'm not going to pull the graphic when we transition questions. I'm just going to add build of the SuperSource. I'll be interested to see how long it takes for the question to update.
Chris Fenwick is added and it did update.
It's not taking Alex out.
Alex is still highlighted. Chris is not highlighted. Highlight Chris for me, please, Josh. There you go. So
Copy
that was
that.
a user error on the host side.
Thank you.
Okay, given that we have the desired condition already in place, if I were to add my question to exacerbate that once it's been taken, would that be a helpful analog?
Yeah, it'd probably be helpful to, as long as you got your camera on, it would be helpful.
Adding my camera now.
JJ, if you don't mind adding Josh back into input 20, please.
I just got to figure out what the heck we're talking about.
Again, just 1070. Josh Kaufman, pipe 1070.
Confirmed.
Yeah. There you are.
Thanks, JJ.
Okay, my faux answer has been tabulated and my smile is now attached.
I'm not seeing your hand raised on the question. Or are you adding
Sorry.
your own question?
Sorry, I was going to. You want me to do it now, or I was going to wait until after it was relieved? After one question, I was going to add it to push it back up to 5.
Just
Is
to
that what you
confirm,
want?
are you raising your hand on Sky's question, which is coming up next?
Correct. I was prepared to
Uh,
answer Sky's question, and
Yeah, raise that now for me. Thank you. You've been accepted. So just this will give us 2 chances to see whether the SuperSource updates in the way that we expect it. And then you can take yourself
Copy.
out, Josh.
copy that. Hope I don't get locked, but if not, I've got backup plan. This should be humorous.
I think they added the ability to take yourself out even if it gets locked, but I may have misheard.
I did hear that. I suppose I could test that as well.
Yes, indeed.
I'll lock it now.
I gotta remember I'm on camera now. I have no idea what YouTube's doing.
Oops.
In case you were joking, you can lock me if you want. I do have a planned answer for the next question in case I get stuck.
You have a planned emergency escape.
I have an exit plan in case I can't exit.
No, that's the host is allowed to do that. No one else.
Don't press that button.
Did Alex start talking without having his hand raised?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What's harder, to train the system or to train Alex?
I think it's to trade the cutter.
I think the laughing answers the question.
See through me. I was trying to leave the super source up so we could diagnose and test it, but I got thrown on that plan.
George here. Am I seeing Zoom active speaker controlling this right now?
Laura's controlling it at the moment.
I would be very interested for the last hour, not the whole last hour, but in the last hour, to try to limit SuperSource box numbers.
I'm unfamiliar with what you're talking about, Salak.
Just a heads up, the next question now has 7 hands raised and is locked.
I'm
So you mean,
speaking to JJ and
Oh,
you mean
okay.
outer limit or inner limit?
inner limit. So Juan has put functionality so you can turn it down to 1, which would give us a banter button, or 2 or 3, or release to 4. No, we haven't had a chance to test that yet.
Juan is saying that we can test that tomorrow so we can add the buttons to the interface.
All right.
Well, I'm game to open this up after today. I mean, after hours. I kind of get the feeling there'll be a few folks since panel's full. My guess is we should be hefty after hours. So if you guys are game, I'm glad to join this and after hours also to test some of the broken things.
And I'll be
Like-
around all day if you need help.
Which
Okay,
book?
here we are, everyone. So SuperSource, we have 7 accepted hands. No change to SuperSource yet. No change
going
to
to-
SuperSource.
Lower my hand and then put back in so I can be in the back of the line.
Okay, so that changed the SuperSource. I would. Did you do something there, Josh? Did you lower your hand?
I haven't yet, waiting for confirmation.
Okay, so SuperSource did update of its own. No one is highlighted. Alex is talking. out
And
of
I'm
turn.
locked in. The question is locked.
So you can't get out, Josh?
Testing that now.
You can get out. Excellent.
It's not locked.
I'm out.
Hands are not
Okay.
locked yet.
So just to clarify,
sorry,
we've got
I
6 people with
misread.
hands raised. And if you want to stay on the SuperSource for us, Laura. Okay. Noah is highlighted, so no change expected to SuperSource at the moment.
Actually, it is locked. I think it was locked.
It was locked and you were able to remove yourself.
Correct.
Excellent.
That's a nice. Somebody should screen share that. It's a nice image right now in the SuperSource.
I'm gonna hold right here for the foreseeable future till we see. the
Thank you,
Superstore
Laura.
Yeah, just for this question especially. So we're waiting for Noah to finish. Ari is coming in. Ari is highlighted, and SuperSource changed as expected and shuffled everyone along. Is that what you were looking for, Juan? Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, it looked really good, and it didn't redraw. It was a one frame click over.
This is happening again. So Courtney was highlighted and it shuffled again. So there you go. So that's exactly what you're hoping for. We have a couple more people, obviously still the answer. So we should see it next go to the 3-up. David was highlighted, still waiting for change to take. Change took. There we go. So it's behaving exactly as we expect. It's just a slightly slow, I would say, on the updates.
I wonder if we need API calls.
Sorry, say it again, Tulok.
I wonder if we need to speed the API calls so that it's every half a second instead of every second.
I'm going to remove my video. Please confirm.
Confirm.
So I noticed Bill's the questioner. Never mind.
He is, yeah. Okay, Laurie, you can go back to as you need. We've seen that behavior happen.
Copy that.
The next thing we're looking out for, and Josh, are you still doing traffic management as well?
Leo just talk out of turn there. Oh, there we go.
I can indeed.
Yep, just so we've got 3 on deck at the moment. This question has now had 6 people accepted to it. We have no questions at the moment with no hands raised. Actually, there is a couple coming up. Thomas Bauer from Atlanta and Greg with a Gritschmeyer, I believe, from Topping Vancouver, VA, has no hands raised on those. So we might be able to see that, whether that affects the super source on those to lock.
Okay. And Vancouver or Virginia?
Virginia, is it the first letter and last letter that you normally put in?
It's for states, they just all have their.
No, there's like Montana, Utah. No, it's not.
No, it's not consistent.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's not consistent. There's no rule. Wyoming.
Yeah, in Ireland, it's first letter, last letter of the county.
There's now 5 people in the question.
There is indeed. So when Bill gets accepted next, we should see David Brady shuffle in.
It's incredible, the improvements, Juan.
I went ahead and hit Bill for answer.
Beautiful job.
Yeah, ditto that. It's working much better than it was before.
I totally agree.
Most Vancouverites, by the way, if they're going to shorten Vancouver, they'd shorten it to Van, V-A-N, and then BC. That's typical.
Tragedy. Comedy and drama.
It's a traumedy.
It's an epithet.
It's a tragedy.
Has the question not changed?
Do we need to remove graphics and bring it back to have the question reset? Can you bring it back? Yeah. So in order to reset the questions, you got to go away from it and come back.
Copy that.
So previously there was behavior if one clicked on graphics in twice, that reset it. Is that no longer available?
That's what I just said or tried to say.
I did it wrong. Sorry.
Is that where you were getting that blue feedback? The blue button that we had to click off of it and click on again?
We're simply talking about, Josh, when a question is left up and not touched in terms of in or out graphics, it doesn't bring in the next question.
Okay. That's
Just
something good for me to be aware of.
Yeah, sticky blue is a different error.
Copy that.
And just have to step away for a couple of minutes.
Thank you. Copy that.
JJ, I got your message. I was referring to Sky's comment that I was in, that it was locked. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Let me go look. It's a while ago now.
I was in Sky's comment, not in
active one at the
Liberty's.
time.
Yeah, I got out with it locked.
Okay, but if you look at the screenshot I sent you, it shows that it wasn't locked. And I refreshed my screen. That lock button, the hands locked button, wasn't locked.
Okay, so maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Currently, Liberty's question that I'm looking at that's live is unlocked. It has the raise hand button available, and the one that you sent me says locked on it. Am I looking at it correctly?
You are.
Okay, sanity checked.
You are.
Did Liberty just get stung by something?
No, she thought Rupert was done.
It sounded like she said, ow.
Ow. Ow.
The next question has 5 in the queue. Okay, 5 in the queue. Confirmed.
Can you confirm the question updated?
Confirmed. Question updated.
Copy that.
And we have Sky coming in as well, yet to be approved. Sky's been added. Seems like everything's working to plan. Bill's been added without error. That was a lot quicker that time with the update. Or I'm not sure, maybe it was the 4UP updating that took the long time last time.
But when you're thinking about SuperSource update delays, think about the fact like that the change may have happened right after an API call happened. So then there's another second before another one can happen. And then you have 300 milliseconds of Zoom delay.
Copy that. So plus minus 300 milliseconds is nominal.
Plus minus 1300 milliseconds is nominal.
Ah, okay. Copy.
That would sort of iterate back and forth between less and more, less and more, as you're in different points in that cycle.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks, Lalak. And we have a stale super source up.
I don't know what that means.
Just my message to Laura.
Oh,
Yes, I've been trying to hold on the super source as much as possible. I can cut back and forth.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, what had happened is I guess it just took a while to move Ken out.
yeah, it took a while. Yeah, it took a while to shift that one as well.
Our super source is getting built back up. We may encounter another testing situation.
Copy that. I'm probably going to cut back here in a minute.
Is it a good show today? I haven't heard a thing.
Richard, back on comms.
Welcome back, Richard. We had a successful test of our target condition.
I'm considering
Awesome.
going to the 9. Consider going to the 9 instead of the 16. There you go. Note, Laura, now we have a 9 up instead of the 16 up in your smart gallery. It's not visible in the 16 up, but it is visible in the smart gallery. If you look at the multi-view, it's next to the super source. It's in between super source and smart speaker.
Copy that. Do you want me to cut to it to see what it looks like in program?
JJ, would it be a difficult thing for the 9 up to simply be a cutaway of the 16 up?
I don't understand that.
What?
So let's say if you just took a 3x3, starting from the top left of the 16 super source, or the smart 16, or the sweet 16. I'm sorry.
16 candles.
Right. Would that
1, 2, 3, 4,
be
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
easier
11, 12,
for
13,
the
14,
flow? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
13, 14, 15, 16.
Josh, are you saying order? Talking about the order in the gallery?
Yeah, I don't know anything about how we derive the 9 from the 16. So
It does it in order.
What it's doing is the 9 from the 16.
Yeah,
It's
the 9
doing-
from the 16 is from the 16. So 16 is column 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4. Column 2 is 5, 6, 7, 8. And so on, right? So the 9 is that, but it's in numeric order, not how it doesn't work, which is what Alex was asking for. He was asking for something that doesn't work that way. Like he wants rows.
he wants rows. Gotcha.
It doesn't work
Yeah.
like rows. It doesn't.
routing
It
table,
doesn't.
which is possible, but it's just a big lift with everything else we're doing. So there's like a cascade of issues when we do that. Because right now, with it being a little closer to 1-to-1, and as how that hardware works, we can leave that away as a potential source of error.
Copy that. Yeah. It occurs to me that even if it were doing rows versus columns, I don't think it would do what I was thinking it would do.
Yeah, I think what you were asking for is could it crop out the lower row and the farthest column? I think that's what you were thinking of.
Exactly, and that kind of tells you who your auxiliary on decks are at a glance.
Right. Yeah, and while I've heard it said that it can do that, or that it's something like that, I just don't see how other than doing it through the router. Actually, I'd probably have to do like a different router state.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
push
saying.
from
You
the
have
router.
build a new routing table that essentially get pushed out by the TCP actor for the
Right.
40 by, and it's a big brain lift.
Yeah, we'd have to take the route. The router would take over as the thing that creates, and it would coordinate with the multi-view.
Exactly.
So the router would have to say, okay, instead of routing 1-to-1, 2-to-2, 3-to-3, 4-to-4, 5-to-5, it would say, let me route 1-to-1, 2-to-4, or sorry,
Right.
2-to-5,
Yep.
It would be nuts. It'd create an entirely different routing because
did
the
not-
multi-view doesn't do that.
4 to 12.
Got
The
you.
mul-
So
The route, the 40 by 40, but that's just
Yeah, the 4540 can, sure.
too much of a lift.
Same thing with the Constellation. We could build, and that's how we're seeing that 16 now. The 16 is from the Constellation.
So currently there's a dark space in node 3.2. Is that sort of the dividing line between on deck and those that are not included in the 60 smart gallery?
Yes, since 3.2 is the last number, you don't see 3.2. So I didn't have to change anything, which is nice. I just went to the 3x3, the 4x4 to 3x3, and I didn't have to do anything.
Because Leo's in a different spot in the 16 by in the 4x4 than he is in the 3x3.
Kind of, yes. Yes, he's in a different spot. But if you counted it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, he's in the derived
Still in
spot.
that numeric spot.
Talo, do you mean different as in the way that I was talking about different or numerically different?
No, JJ just corrected my ignorance, which I deeply appreciate.
Oh, no. Oh,
Because I was reading it slightly differently, and by what you just said, cleared it up for me.
yeah, but as mentioned, it would be possible to do what he's asking. It just would take rerouting.
Yep, exactly. You'd have to build a table, keep it written down so that in case it gets lost, you don't have to rethink about it, and then put that into the TCP sender.
And they exist. Actually, we have some routing tables. We have those 3 routing tables right now. So we can create something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right now they're all 1-to-1.
Have to make sure of though is that now the brain can do the appropriate things, and I think it can because all it's doing is changing pins, right? So but we just have to iterate those tests so that you don't end up with like making that change and then really breaking the system.
Yeah, and my small concern is in making those route changes is that something might break as you're pushing those TCP requests across the network. For instance, the hyperdecks all froze in week 2 of Office Hours 2.0. All of them. Every single hyperdeck. All 25 hyperdecks that I have froze.
Did we ever figure that one out?
Nope. Actually, it froze 3 times that week. So I went back to Blackmagic, started looking for root cause. Hasn't happened again.
I think with what Alex was asking as well, one of the things we've already solved in some ways is how the numbers are displayed on the universe patch, on the universe interface, more than necessarily even how they're displayed in the multi-view. Because it's not something that Alex necessarily is involved in whether it goes in rows or columns. It's more about how the interface matches how the interface is used. So whenever, one of the reasons why I gave Laura today the version, the interface that Jonas made with the numbers at the bottom, is it kind of immediately gets away from the 16 grid and away from the constellations multi-view order and starts to just put it in a row order. I think he had more of a problem with the fact that in the universe patch it did the numbers in columns than in rows. And in fairness to Jonas, he obviously did have it in rows, but I asked him to change it to columns to match the multi-view. But I think the current version that Laura's using today puts everything, just moves away from that entirely and displays it completely differently, which I think is probably a better way, just because it matches the it matches the constellation and the ATEM way of laying things out a bit more.
Another design methodology would be to send names back to the buttons.
It could do. I mean, I find that it's interesting because you would have to send numbers and names. It depends upon mentally how quickly you process that information. And personally, going to numbers is a bit quicker because it means that you can immediately get there a little bit quicker than having to go for, okay, it's Liberty I'm looking for on that list, than just a number in order. You know, it's a mental thing.
And a name, not just a name.
Yeah, but both. Anything that adds text that you have to read adds mental process time. So if you're only looking for one thing, one number, then you click into it a little bit quicker just from switching. I know it from doing the labels on the ATEMs that we have here. It's sometimes easier just to have the number and that less context, more specificity. But I mean, it depends upon what people want.
What if instead you had a small number in the top corner and an avatar photo?
That would not work necessarily.
Might be even worse.
For example, right now, if I was looking for Sam, because he's newer, I don't have a memory of what his image looks like yet. It takes me a very long time to do that. That would absolutely take longer for me. Somebody saying to me, cut to 14 or whatever.
Yeah, copy that, Laura. That's a good point.
I mean, the other thing is that obviously we should just move over to emoji representations of everyone. And whoever gets to poo, just depends who's in first.
I call for my mind is being blown emoji.
Dibs on thinking emoji.
Poo. As in Winnie the.
Joshman be crying tears. Laughing tears.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the thinking emoji, right?
Ha.
I call the halo emoji, the emoji with the halo over their head.
And JJ, your interface that you're showing, is that unique to you, or that's not what Laura is using, obviously?
You're double muted, JJ, I think.
So that's mine. That's kind of the original one. I mean, that is much the original one. This is Laura's. And this is the one that Dennis likes. I put that together on the fly on Thursday or Friday. This is the one that is representational, basically, of this what we see. It's just because it's got 17, 18, 19, 20 here, and it has the order screen, active speaker, smart galleries, and SuperSource, so you can see.
Yeah, I think that one is the training wheels friendly.
Exactly.
Most frowned upon, did you say?
Yeah, those are the most frowned upon. Alex like no. But
he said no. That's funny. I mean, Alex he was talking about the interface that follows the function as opposed to what you want to do with it. Is that what he was saying?
Okay.
He said that.
Question. Does the guy read the question instead of... Yes, guy's now reading. That's going to break the Coast Reader SuperSource.
Oh, we're seeing that again.
Yes,
The
so
Fred Eric. Yeah. Fred Eric question problem. That's what we saw last week as well, where Fred Eric's questions somehow break the graphic. Would you pop that back in for me, please,
Yeah,
Laura?
it's got carriage returns in it.
Oh, it's gone back
Moved
to that
on.
one. That's okay. Thanks, Laura. You can take it out again.
And Laura, you can go ahead and test the host reader. There you are. Sky's there.
Excellent.
You said Sky's reader, right?
It's Guy Cochran that's reading, not Sky.
Guy, not Sky.
Oh, that guy.
There you are.
Copy it.
Who's that guy? Yes.
Who's that girl? ¿Quién es esa niña?
Wow, I just went to go Discord Guy, and apparently my pocket had written a whole paragraph of X's and C's to him at one point. Glad it didn't send.
X's
Depends
and
who you were
O's.
sending it to.
Dear guy, XOXOXO.
It says
Yeah, but what do the C's stand for?
it says XX, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then DVE.
Crunchy.
It somehow got DVE in there somewhere.
No, you didn't.
Amazing.
He's like, yeah, sure, your pocket did this. It has DVE written right in it.
Oh man, that's outstanding. That made my day. That's funny.
You've got a smart pocket.
Okay, team, well done today.
Permission to done the
JJ?
question?
JJ, is there anything that you want to focus on tomorrow?
Permission to
same
done
with
the question?
Yes, you can do.
See what
Just
breaks.
don't do anything else to the ones that are in the voting queue because Alex wants to go and have a look at them, which is he's currently explaining right now. So JJ, Tulloch, and debug team, is there anything that you want to look at specifically tomorrow?
I would really love to try adding an interface for box limitations and then testing that thoroughly.
Copy that.
JJ, is that feasible?
Ooh,
I hope so. As long
Excellent.
as I can grok what that means exactly. Yes.
Well, sounds good to me. Should we move into after hours then whenever it opens? And sorry, Laura, go ahead.
It cut to the 16 instead of the 9. Is that what was supposed to happen there?
Yeah, the 16 has changed. The 9 has changed to a 16 in that multi-view. So at some stage, JJ must have moved it back, unless it moved itself. In which case, then that's something we have to log as a bug.
No, JJ moved it.
JJ moved it
I
back.
filled out the slots.
Copy that. No problem.
Not reason that
aware,
Stefan
thank
was
you.
there. Like 8
Panels in
times.
limbo. Panel is in limbo.
All right.
Yeah. And panel is gone.
Limbo lower now.
Exactly.
So well done, everyone, for a stable 2.0 day. Well done, all the work in the back end to get that as stable as it was.
Right. 2.0 is launching next week, right?
I think it's tomorrow that we talk about launching it next week.
Fantastic.
Am I still unmuted? Yeah. Juan, and JJ, and all other people.
What can I hear you?
Would you like for who would be responsible? I know Jonas has a really big day for making that new interface for those for those limitations. Would it be something that I could work with JJ to do? Would everybody be comfortable with that? Like, how do we actually do that so that it's not on JJ at 7 tomorrow morning or whatever, 5 tomorrow morning, and he's having to do 17 million other things? Because it's what it takes is a little change in Isadora and a little change in universe. Well, maybe no one's here to answer that question, so I'll talk to y'all.
I think JJ might have taken his ears out.
Yeah, I did for a second there. Well, I put them in a weird state. You can hear me now, right? From this?
Yes, we can
box?
indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, really weird.
I think Talok, are you still here?
I'm here, yep.
Yeah. Do you want to ask that again?
So JJ, the question is, with Jonas being very busy and me not wanting to try to implement a huge, not a huge change, but a change for you right at the time when you're trying to bring the meetings up. What is the methodology of work to make sure that there is that way to test tomorrow?
Top it after hours right now.
Okay.
Because after hours right now, as I mentioned earlier, and maybe you weren't around for it, they have nearly enough input so we can test quite a few things. And then tossing multiple questions into MITK or Alive, I don't care. One of those, modifying our Mukana URL in both locations, and then testing that way, because we have enough inputs right now. So we can keep, hacking at this.
Okay, so what needs to happen then is we need to go over to after hours, get ourselves set up in that meeting, get ourselves set up with MITK, and then we can make that augmentation of the limitations manually in Isadora just to see if it's working, and then we can start talking about how to get that out to a universe button.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Yep.
So that everybody knows, I am out of universe. I have logged out.
I
Thanks,
will.
Laura.
I will see you in after hours, and I'm here to help facilitate.
Super.
Should I remain here in this meeting to help you guys out in any switching?
I think we're going to move over to after hours. Tommy, is that correct, JJ?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to move into after hours.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, George. RFI to the usual places.
Do you want to? So that's